Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So, as I said before, and I'll say it again, this is a Christopher Watts update, and I said I would be doing these videos only when there was news and information that came out that needed to be reported on. I'm not going to be rehashing what has already been out there in the media daily, weekly, so I can keep the viewer count or whatever people accuse me of doing. I'm reporting only on what is new in the news about Christopher Watts. All right, and the first part, I'm going to break this down into 4 parts. First part, I'm going to talk about the difference between prison and jail. And here in America and around the world, for a large part, people use the two words interchangeably, jail and prison. And there is a vast difference. A jail is normally for someone who is awaiting trial and or sentencing. Now, there are a large majority of people who will serve their entire time in their prison, their entire sentence in a jail and never go to prison. And in a lot of states, it is if you are sentenced to less than 1 year in jail, you will spend your entire time in the actual jail itself. But if you're sentenced to 1 year and 1 day, you will go to prison and serve your entire time. So jails and prison are both secured housing facilities that are legally permitted to restrict or remove certain constitutional rights from inmates, in that they restrict their movement, their ability to communicate with the outside world. These are constitutional rights that they are allowed to actually restrict. But when it comes to the jail and a prison, so again, jails, people waiting trial, and people sentenced to under a year prison. Anything over a year, normally in most states, you go to prison itself. So they're legally sanctioned to confine prisoners to a certain location and remove certain legal and constitutional rights. I guess would be the best way to put that. Jails are for people who are awaiting trial, but they're also people who are there awaiting a deportation. When it comes to people who again are there in jail, who runs the jails? Well, normally when it comes to a jail, the jails are run by the sheriff's department for that actual county, or a police department, or a grouping of sheriff police for a certain area. They will run the actual jail. That is for 78% of all jails in the United States. The rest of the percentage are run by independent, privately owned companies who are openly trade on the U.S. stock exchange, and they are for profit, and they make money by keeping that door revolving and keep people coming in and out. And they get away with some things that you just would not believe. When it comes to maintaining several levels of security within the jail and within the prison, there is minimum, there is medium, and there is maximum. And there's also segregation and protective custody within jails and within prisons. So the different levels of security, they don't just throw everybody into a giant room and say, you make good yourself. They don't throw somebody who's been convicted of a DUI and has to serve 5 days in jail in with the same pod or same room with a guy who, annihilated his entire family yesterday afternoon. They just don't do it. Or a gang member who, is looking for another notch on his belt, so he can, step up a little bit higher in within the gang. They don't do that. Because it wouldn't work out too well, would it? Prisons for those who already are convicted of crimes, the prisons are run mainly by state, federal government, and again the privatized companies out there. Prison facilities are segregated by not only their physical design, but by their the different security levels that are required for the actual inmates. Prisoners are assigned by security level. So, like when Christopher Watts, Dodge Correction Center is an evaluation center first off and foremost. All right. So they evaluate them. They for mental health and all sorts of different ones. I'll get to in a minute here. And then they decide, okay, this is their security risk, and then they move them into a facility somewhere within the system that is actually what they need. And those limitations for security are based on length of time that the prisoner must serve, their mental health, their type of charges, their physical abilities and disabilities, their educational background, gang affiliation, and media knowledge of their crimes. So when it comes to Christopher Watts in particular, everybody knew about his crime, and he was a high-profile inmate. They had to put him someplace where people would not necessarily know his crime and necessarily be able to get to him because of his crime. Yes, they don't. They're never going to put him in general population. I don't know why people keep on thinking that they're going to put him in general population. It has never happened. And in the case where people compare him to Jeffrey Dahmer was killed by another inmate who was in the same protective custody unit as himself. He was not killed by someone from general population. Yes, a guard did break the rules and let that prisoner into the same room as Jeffrey Dahmer, but it wasn't a general population inmate. All right. So there is a vast difference also between commissary in a jail and commissary in prison. In a jail, they're not going to be able to buy Walkmans, boots, and jeans, and T-shirts, and televisions and stuff like that. In prisons, certain prisons, depending upon the restrictions that they have, they very well may be able to buy those items plus a whole lot more, and also cost. Costs are vastly different between a jail and a prison for items on the commissary. A pack of top ramen in a jail may be 20 cents for a pack of ramen. In a prison, it could be as high as 48 cents. 48 cents in Juneau, Alaska, by the way. That's where I got that information from. Living conditions in between a prison and a jail. Prisons, it depends on how well they're funded and how well they've been run. It can be a nightmare of a system to spend your entire rest of your life in. It could be living hell on earth because of the certain health conditions, the deterioration of the actual prison itself. That is in the prison system. When it comes to county jail, they have commissioners and stuff like that who walk through and they see the place, so they try to keep the county jail up and running in a good well maintained manner. So that is the differences between jails and prisons. Okay, moving on. Now we're going to talk about Dodge Correction Center. Dodge Correction Center, first off and foremost, is a maximum security prison. Now, what you need to understand is within that maximum security prison, there is maximum security, there is minimum security, there is medium security. All of them are within that actual prison itself. And no, they're not all thrown together in one giant room. They are separated and segregated by pods and restrictions on the actual inmate. Now, why do they have all those within a maximum security prison? Because it is in an evaluation center where they classify them first. Okay, you're coming here, you get classified for all your, like I said, mental health, physical ability, disabilities, and your gang affiliation, all that. And that makes it okay. Well, you need medium security. You go over there. You put on the yellow outfit. These ones over here, they're going to wear green because they're maximum, but they have less restrictions. And then there's ones who wear brown, and those who are wearing brown are minimum. And also people call those are minimum. The inmates themselves call them short timers. So back to the actual Dodge Correction Center. They're all levels. It acts as more of a transfer station than anything else. 83% of all those who go through Dodge Correction Center will leave Dodge Correction Center. They will not stay at Dodge Correction Center to serve out their time. They will be moved on to another prison within either in the state or out of state. In a lot of cases, they move on to Waupun. Correctional Center up the road, basically. In July 2019, the prison at Dodge Correction Center will switch over from Secure Us, which is the telephone system, to CenturyLink, and the cost of a phone call will go from $1.75 to 6 cents per phone call for an inmate. Yeah, they've been paying $1.25 for an in-state call, or somewhere here in the United States, $1.25. That's not international rates. Yeah, that can get expensive, especially for Christopher Watts, who's been calling his dad every single night. Christopher Watts currently can only make phone calls to Dodge Correction Center. He cannot get incoming calls. He can only make outgoing calls and to approved people on his approved prisoner list. He cannot dial an extra number. He can't dial any other number. He can dial, basically, he goes up to the phone, he puts in his prison ID number, and then he dials a four-digit prefix that is assigned to, like, his mother or his father, or, and I'll tell you who's actually approved. These are the only people who are approved on his phone list right now. His mother, his sister, his father, his attorney, and a friend listed as Joel. Joel. That's it. There's no women on the approved phone list. There is nothing else. And Securus is a paid system. Oh, and by the way, so AD never purchased any phone time for him, and for him to do that, he would have to go through a completely different system. Since he's outside the United States, he could not have purchased airtime for him and then put it on his account. You would have to do it another way. You'd have to actually find somebody here in the United States to send the money to and then purchase it. If your family is outside the United States, they must be approved in order to buy even airtime for him to make phone calls. And Christopher Watts can't call him anyways because he's not on the approved list. So Chris Watts now can as of 5/1/2019, Christopher Watts can now receive and send email. Yes, as of 5/1/2019, he can now send and receive emails. But again, he is restricted on who he can actually email to. And these computer kiosks, they're allowed 15 minutes of time on the thing per day, and then that's it. So they can send emails and receive emails from it, but only from approved members. Otherwise, again, he can't send an email to anybody else. He and the people he is approved to send and trade emails with right now is his mother, his sister, and his father only. His attorney's not even listed on there as approved. So I guess he doesn't have much of legal reasons to contact them. Money for airtime, commissary, and everything else must be put on his account through three different methods. Either Cash Pay Today, which is the name of a company. They work out of like check cashing places in some grocery stores. Money order, or someone must physically walk into the actual prison main office right there and then put the money on his books. But again, they must be approved and they must state on the form why they're putting money on his books. Yeah, they track it so it's not money laundering. So you're not putting money on the books of Juan to put a hit out on Christopher Watts. You must tell them who you are, show ID, write it down, why you're putting money on Juan's books, and so they can track it. They're not stupid. Trust me, the inmates have thought all this up before. So different programs that are offered at the Dodge Correction Center. Again, some of these programs are available to Chris, some of them are not. Substance abuse and use disorder treatment. Thinking for a change, that is basically trying to get the inmate to think differently than how they have thought their entire life instead of acting out on impulse. Anger management, parenting classes, vocational resume classes, and pre-release services. Okay, obviously, Christopher Watts is not going to be eligible to take parenting classes or pre-release services. So don't bother even commenting that you can't believe that he has those options. He doesn't. I said that in the other video. He doesn't have the option to all the programs. Those are the vocational classes that they're available. Let's look at the crime rate when it comes to the actual prison itself. Violent offenses. People who are there for violent offenses in the Dodge Correction Center, 62%. Property crimes, 12%. Drug offenses, 11%. And public order and other crimes, 14%. How about religion? When it comes to religion, Protestant, 62%. Catholic, 14%. Islam, 7%. No preference at all, 5%. Pagan, 3%. And FYI, there are two people who list the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster on the church registry as their religious preference. Average population of Dodge Correction Center at any given month is right around 1,600 inmates. Of those who are in those 1,600, 3% of them are serving life sentences without the possibility of parole. 3%. And most of them are housed within the same ward, pod area. So Christopher Watts is not with people who are there for other crimes. Well, except for there are a couple people in his pod who are there because they're gang affiliation and they're ex-gang members, and or they're snitches. They ratted out the gang and they're there because if they were to be in general population or someplace else, they would be killed. All right, so the warden of the Dodge Correctional Center is William Pollard, who is the warden. I don't know why anybody would think that they would call William Pollard to inquire about Christopher Watts when there is a dedicated department that deals just with the media and anybody who has questions about inmates. It's on their website. I don't know why anybody would do it, but apparently they've actually started screening all the calls because people have been calling and calling and calling. As a matter of fact, they got over 300 phone calls since Christopher Watts has been there asking about Christopher Watts and information about Christopher Watts. Over 300 of them. So Dodge Correctional Center is a maximum security prison. This is how people who are there at Dodge Correctional Center, how it actually breaks down in their sentence length. So those serving with less than a year left, so they may have been sentenced to 2, but now currently they have less than a year, 13%. 1 year up to 2 years, 23%. 2 years up to 3 years, 9%. 3 years to 4 years, 6%. 4 years to 5 years, 5%. 5 years or more, 43%. That is the Dodge Correction Center. All right, now going on to family. So this is Christopher Watts' family. Christopher Watts' sister has legally decided that she is no longer going to use the last name of Watts and has dropped the Watts name from all her social media. Those channels and accounts that still say the last name of Watts for her are fake. And some of them are pretty good, where the person has actually spent some time doing some research on it. But she has dropped the Watts name from all her social media, her cell phone company, her home phone company, her power bill, everything has been changed out of the last name of Watts. She no longer uses the last name of Watts in any fashion at all, except for on her driver's license, I believe, but she may be filing to actually remove the last name of Watts. And she's doing it not to hide, but because she has been severely harassed everywhere she has gone because of what her brother did. Christopher Watts' parents have been offered a deal to take part in an ID channel documentary investigating the actual crime itself, and they declined. That was, and by the way, I will tell you where that came from. That came from Entertainment Tonight news magazine, the show. So the following social media channels have done as much as they can to remove bogus accounts, but there are still new ones that are popping up daily, or accounts that were older and then somebody tweaks it and changes the name to be one of Christopher Watts' families. Facebook, YouTube, Tumblr, We Hearted, LiveJournal, QZone, Twitter, and Instagram have all been working to remove fake Christopher Watts, Cindy Watts channels, or accounts and accounts for his sister. That they don't believe that his father is savvy enough to have a social media presence, so they actually haven't been spoofing him online. News. We're on to news now. All right, when it comes to the home in Frederick, Colorado, the sale has been suspended, as you know, but it may very well go up for auction this summer. No date has been confirmed, and it may not even go up for sale then because the bank is actually looking at putting it into a trust until the end of the start of 2020, and then selling the home then instead in the summer of 2020, when after the civil case has been over with. But they're still discussing that. They have stopped all foreclosure proceedings on the home because they don't want, Wells Fargo does not want the backlash coming against them for foreclosing on and taking the home and the sale of that home away from the Rushchik family. The PR. Christopher Watts is yesterday's news. His mistress. She has not phoned him, written him, sent him a package, nothing. She has not put money on his books, nothing. She has had zero contact with him, according to the jail and according to his interview where he spoke with CNN News. Christopher Watts, yes, that did an interview, a short interview with a reporter from CNN. And I'll get to that in a minute here. So Christopher Watts has received over 2,000 letters since he has been incarcerated there in the state of Wisconsin. 300 calls to the warden, like I said, plus 300 plus calls to the warden. And all those since 425 2019 is when they stopped counting the amount of letters and stuff like that. Of the 2,000 letters, Christopher Watts has received no less than 400 of them. A lot of them have been they contained information or pictures or items in it that were deemed inappropriate for him to have in the actual prison system. So they were just trashed. Everything coming in is open, ladies and gentlemen. They read it, they scan it, and if for gang affiliation and other reasons, they can scan and look at everything. Nothing comes in. They don't just hand you this mail. So that one is gone. So he's gotten, what, a third, approximately somewhere in there, of the actual letters that have been sent to him. All the packages, no matter what it is, they just go right into the trash. Christopher Watts may be transferred to Waupun Correction Center by the end of 2020, not 2019, 2020. And the reason why is because, as the media attention dies off from him, he becomes less high profile. He doesn't need the, added security necessarily, around him. Yeah, he will not go into general population at Waupun. He will be in a protective custody unit there his entire life. He will never be in general population. And I love the people who say that, we'll put him in your general population. I know he'll be in general population soon. No, he won't. He'll never do it. Because it'd be a death sentence. I can almost guarantee you with, and I'd be willing to bet you, serious cash, they'll never put him in general population because they know the moment they do, he's a dead man. There are people who are doing life sentences right now who are in the same pod with him. Those are the ones that have been torturing him mentally by yelling at him, telling him to stick his head in the toilet and, finish himself off. All right, so Scott McLean from CNN is who he actually spoke with. That is the name of the reporter. You can actually, I believe, search his article online. It's McLean, Scott, Scott, McLean, Mclean, McLean. See, so the lady who was the behind the article for People magazine online that said that Christopher Watts was looking at all sources to file an appeal. Her name is Samantha Westbrook. And Samantha Westbrook is recanting her story now and says that the People magazine twisted what she said to them about that article out of context. Christopher Watts' attorney has confirmed that Christopher Watts has decided not to fight the wrongful death suit against him from the Rushchik family, and that he is willing to just let everything go that is left, like the home and all the personal belongings within it, to be sold to pay the Rushchiks. And that is the end. 26 minutes. I'm done with this entire thing for now, and I'm moving on. Thank you for sticking around if you did to this point. I hope you have a great week, and you stay safe out there.